this is Marina from Darkstar Astrology, bringing you the full moon on the 18th of May. It falls at 27 degrees of Scorpio, and it's aligned with the notorious fixed star Algol, but by opposition. The closest aspect to the full moon is an opposition also to Mercury. The tarot card is the Seven of Cups, and the healing crystal is the smoky quartz. So because there's no major fixed star aligned with the full moon, I just thought, well, I can't ignore that the sun is conjunct fixed star Algol, and because the sun obviously is part of a full moon, I really have to look at or consider Algol as part of the interpretation for this full moon. Now, to add to all this evilness, the decan that this full moon falls in is also associated with debauchery. So Agrippa says that Scorpio Decan 3 signifies drunkenness, fornication, wrath, violence and strife. And of course, Algol is associated with alcohol. And this is also supported by my research when I found that quite a few traumatic events took place under this decan, and also there's quite a few killers amongst the natives as well. So that's the bad news. The mysterious and sometimes eerie full moon is bound to emphasize the occult potential of this decan, but the good news is that there are also an inordinate amount of talented singers with this placement. So for the most part, they're extremely slinky souls using their serpentine attributes in the most erotic manner possible. So this is a decan of femme fatales and also the typical Don Giovanni. Both sexes need to watch they don't become too ruthless in their quest of bedding the object of their desire. This position can be almost too cartoon-like in its potential to produce scoundrels, yet the copious amount of artistry also stirred up by this bittersweet Luna cannot be ignored. Now, Austin Kopok says of this decan that it feels much of what others refuse to feel and are open to states which most repress. As a result, they have an emotional range that many lack and are often quite sensitive, with many evidencing intuitive and psychic ability. So yeah, I think that goes with the singers as well. They have a range that they can express in emotion through their voice. But we can also find ourselves looking at the dark side of excess then, with prominent people in the news behaving in quite a lewd manner, but when aren't they? So I think this full moon will further open our eyes to the degeneracy in the world. It is only after the stench of purification is revealed that a new dawn is possible. And it is interesting that director Stanley Kubrick also had his moon in Scorpio Decan 3. His prophetic films only show too well what happens when people willfully keep their eyes wide shut. And he's an interesting story. He also, I know, apparently there were scenes in Eyes Wide Shut that weren't shown, and then mysteriously he died before the release of the film. So he knows a thing or two, or knew a thing or two. But I think he's part of the whole predictive programming thing as well, and also probably, the notion that it's in plain sight, and so therefore the Elites can be absolved of their sins. So let's look at Algol then. So yeah, normally I wouldn't consider a star that's opposite the moon, but it's conjunct the sun. So, it's too important to ignore, especially in the time that we are in the year as well, the Beltane purging of fires and all sorts of things to do with fires. I do want to talk about Notre Dame more, and maybe I'll rant a little bit more about it this time in this moon, but we'll get on with the reading and then we'll go back to it. So Mercury is next to the sun. It's conjunct the sun. So, and now Mercury is also aligned with Capulus, and this is the beheading arm of Perseus. So Algol is in the head of Medusa, who he just decapitated and he's holding, and Capulus is in his actual beheading arm. So Bernadette Brady says that Capulus is extreme male sexual energy, and it could be seen as a male Lilith, a match for Lilith's wild libido. I guess you could call it an alpha male. Some would say toxic masculinity. I mean, the interesting thing is here, if it is the male Lilith, then I think Lilith is also an example of toxic femininity. So maybe she's got a point. So the sword being very phallic, this is the male Kundalini energy of the divine masculine. And Capulus also has a similar heroic energy of Aldebaran, the White Knight, or Orion the Hunter. So with Capulus, then the energy is wilder and raw. It's an A++ alpha male, and it's driven by sexual desire to free Andromeda from the chains placed on her by her father, or you could say authoritarianism. So in case you don't know anything about Algol, this is some of the interpretations of it. It has the nature of Saturn and Jupiter. It causes misfortune, violence, decapitation, hanging, electrocution, and mob violence. It gives a dogged and violent nature that causes death to the native or others. It is the evilest star in the heavens. So, I mean, yeah, okay. Well, I've written a contemporary interpretation of the star. So if you want to go to that, I'll leave a link at the bottom of this video. But I still think the original, more, I guess, raw interpretations of the fixed stars are also important, because in mundane astrology, they can mean, they can mean exactly what they say, and horrible things do go on in the world. Algol was known as the blinking demon, as it's a binary star. The Chinese gave Algol the grim title, piled up corpses. The Hebrews call it Satan's head, and it is also associated with Adam's first wife, Lilith again, who was branded as a nocturnal vampire and succubus from the underworld. So the third face of Scorpio, where this full moon is going to be, is described as, by the Pictrix, a horse and a rabbit. This is a face of evil works and flavours and forcing sex upon unwilling women. So it's pretty grim, just like Algol. This is totally unrelated, but this is the opposite decan to Taurus Decan 3, so there's some kind of mirroring going on here. So the aspect is the moon opposite Mercury, which creates a synergy or conflict between the rational mind and gut instincts. The restlessness creates a very driven mood in the collective way, where we are constantly in a state of flux, like the tides washing in and out. And this can make for a very creative and self-purifying period with a huge need to communicate our fluctuating moods to a wider audience. So this creativity is also one of the markers of Algol as well, with all the singers that have it, and the sort of feeling of being quite highly strung. So we will need to really purge our energies through something artistic, and that will be quite healing and cathartic for us, I think. There could also be a lot of restlessness in the general public, who will find creative ways to express their angst against the governing classes. So the tarot card for the full moon is the very confusing and bewitching Seven of Cups. Now both Venus and the moon as rulers of this decan are also reflective and passive planets, and this resonates well with this card's divinatory meaning, which is, as he stands mesmerized in front of the Seven Cups, he realizes he has much to contemplate and reflect on. You could be attending counseling or psychotherapy sessions to help expose hidden motives and overcome childhood conditioning to expose your true personality. Then again, you may be using meditation or reading self-help books in an attempt to find your true self. So this could be like slaying demons as well, because in order to find our true selves, sometimes there are many demons in the way and split personalities and bits of us that have been grafted on by our upbringing and by the program and by the matrix as well. So I chose smoky quartz as the healing crystal because it's a great protector against environmental and psychic pollution, i.e. Algol demons. And apparently the Druids used it as an aid to ground them back to earth after entering other dimensions. It's also great as an aid to giving up smoking and other addiction to toxic or trauma bonds. I can't actually remember when I wrote this and whether it was before or after the Notre Dame fire, but it's smoky quartz. Hang on, let me see the date. April the 26th. So yeah, it was after. So I think this must have been on my mind with all the kind of the spiritual warfare that's taking place. I think anybody who's in this battle in the heavens or for the heavens or whatever it is, or for our culture, I don't know, needs to hang on to one of these smoky quartz. So some of the meanings are the smoky quartz crystal is linked with the healing vibrations of the earth that occurred over millions of years, a life-giving cycle that gives and gives but also takes away. In the case of smoky quartz, it was the tough love of Mother Nature that gave it a distinct strength in the gemstone world. Its exposure to radiation makes it one of the most powerful stones for clearing and purifying the environment from electromagnetic stress. So that's from Energy Muse. And obviously, you know, we use so many computers and we're surrounded by EMFs at the moment. So at the moment, probably, I don't know how long this is going to carry on. It's just going to get worse with 5G. So maybe the Druids in the past, they were using it to ground themselves. But now I think we need to do the same, really. Now, healing crystals for you say if you're on a spiritual quest and have been working on any of your metaphysical or psychic abilities, it is possible you may have become ungrounded. This stone is purpose-built to solve that problem, as it will bring you down to earth quickly. Ensuring you are grounded is a very important part of doing any spiritual work. So this is a very useful and wonderful stone to wear upon your body, especially if you are doing any spiritual work or healing. And then crystal vaults say, hold smoky quartz to relieve tension and stress, anxiety or panic attacks, also to ward off negative thinking and to eliminate worry and doubts when faced with chaos or confusion, to absorb misfortune, sorrow or seemingly impossible obstacles. Hold faceted or natural points of smoky quartz in each hand, pointed down towards the ground, then consciously release those negative energies back to Mother Earth for cleansing and repurposing. Now, so now I want to talk about Notre Dame again, because it is the European 9/11. A few comments have kind of made me a little angsty, I suppose, but then I can't blame people for thinking things that I actually probably would have written about, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, because, you know, I saw Christianity as being very evil. Now, the thing is, the Vatican is evil. I think it's being run by a bunch of Satanists, and those at the top, and all the people who are doing the paedophilia as well, they are basically doing the whole kind of child sacrifice thing that Christianity originally came into being to stop in the first place. So there has been a battle between Christians and Satan, you know, or Satanists rather. The problem is that Christianity has been demonized so much that it's become a very triggering word. And the moment you say Christian, what comes to mind is a sort of Bible bashing, uptight, hating person who, you know, who hates progressive people and wants to condemn them all as sinners. So if that's the case, really, in my life, I've sinned terribly. I'm not going around hating myself because of that. What I think really in terms of Christian values, they are a great thing to aspire to. So what I mean by that is all the supposed sins, like, I suppose, all right, we'll have to go through them, abortion, sex before marriage, fornication, sodomy. Well, basically, it's all things that are against life, I guess, family life. And having sex without the aim of making children is seen as a sin. Now, obviously, it's totally unrealistic to think that people are just going to have sex when they want to have children, because we are on earth and sensual pleasures are there to tempt us and are enjoyable, But I can't see what's enjoyable really about sex without love. So, there's a spectrum of sexual practices, and I'm not saying that people who are having, I don't know, all right, sexual intercourse in let's put it, orifices, I can't say it. Oh my God, am I really going to be talking about arseholes? Orifices that are not meant for the objects that they're receiving, shall we say. Is that a sin? I don't know. But I've always thought it's a bit strange. Sorry if that offends anyone, but I really don't understand it, okay? I'm just going to be honest here. So in my view, a sin to me is lying, and I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to pretend that I think it's a good thing. No, I don't think it's a good thing. I've always thought it was a strange thing to partake in, and I suppose it's because I'm not one of those people that do think that is a sexy act. Well, I don't and never have. So this is my coming out, because they want you to become robots. They want you not to have emotions about things. They want you to just accept these practices that at the end of the day are very Lilith, which are very anti-family. And also Lilith was a hermaphrodite as well. So the splitting of the genders too. Again, sorry if this offends anyone, but do you get transgender plants? They wouldn't get very far. They wouldn't, and don't throw seahorses at me, okay? They're nature's weird thing, but they are pretty amazing seahorses. They're pretty cool. But anyway, the hermaphrodite thing is very Lilith. And now, again, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but it's not pro-life. If everyone was hermaphrodites, it would be the end of humans. So I think there's always going to be a very, very small percentage of people who will not be having families, who are natural priests and priestesses, actually, because the responsibility of a family is, if you're doing missionary work, or if you're truly caring for the unfortunate and for people who are sick and for people that need healing, you need 100% of your energy. So yeah, a family would get in the way of that. So I think there are a small amount of people who are suited to not having families, and they're not sinners because they are not producing children and procreating. They are the priest and priestess caste. So I thought I would talk about all these taboo subjects while we are on the subject of Algol, because Algol is about abnormal things. The norm is family, two genders, and heterosexuality. That's the norm, and that's fine. And preferring that is not, it's not hate. It means you love nature, and you can live and let live. By saying that that's what you prefer doesn't mean to say that you're judging other people. So I thought, I'm just going to say what I prefer. And the problem is, I think, is that if you're somebody who's on YouTube and you are, people want to know your opinion, because if they value your opinion on other things like, astrology and things like that, then they kind of want you to be 100% approving of their lifestyle. And God forbid, if you say you're a Christian, all these things are associated with you, and you're demonized. This is the Algol thing, you're demonized. And I just think it's really, really weird that there is no such word as Christianophobe, Jesus-phobe. There just isn't. So you're allowed to, you can be as what's the word, blasphemous or critical as you like about Christians. But the other two of the Abrahamic religions, which are, and they're of the same book, that you can now be put in prison for if you criticize them. This is weird. Surely under the whole Judaic, Abrahamic, because we're all in the same gang, really, kind of, well, not really, then we should all be protected as the same religious family, shall we say. But no, we're the scapegoats. And I'm pretty sure the other two branches of the Abrahamic religion have the same views as Christianity about gay sex and also abortion. I know what Islam thinks of it, but I'm not quite sure about the Judaic branch. So I kind of would like to know, really, and why it's always the Christians that get accused of being homophobic and, not pro-life. What are they accused of when they approve of? Oh yeah, anti-pro-choice, isn't it? So that's the reason that I kind of re-Christianized myself, because I realized that I actually, those are the opinions I have, and it's quite a good way, instead of being called, you see, if you're not Christian and you hold those values, you're just called a far right, Nazi, basically. But if you're Christian, well, you're probably still called a far right Nazi. But it's weird, because you're not called that if you're the other two branches, even though they believe the same thing. Now, another thing, yes, I just wanted to also say, yeah, I'm not a church going. I mean, I obviously have been divorced twice. So I should be stoned to death, basically, for what I've done. But I've repented, so that's all right then. So yeah, I'm a bit of a Mary Mag. And so you're basically, the good thing about Christianity is that if you repent for your sins, then all is forgiven, and Jesus will still love me because I repent. So so there you go. I've repented. That's my confession. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. It's been God knows how many years since my last confession. I was probably 15 or something like that, probably 14. But I also wanted to say too, growing up, and I don't know, probably not many people know this, but growing up, my closest parental figure was a gay man. It was my uncle, and he when I was in college, he used to ring me every Sunday. He was like the mum and dad in one. So, I do not have a problem with gay men at all. I mean, if anything, he was like a role model for me, and I kind of wanted to be a gay man at that time. So, I this is the thing that does piss me off about Christianity is that it's seen as being anti-gay men, and I don't know where I stand on that whole thing, because I know a lot of priests who are gay. Well, I don't know them personally, but I knew one. He was in the Church of England, but obviously he wasn't practicing gay, so that was fine. So, well, I don't know what I'm saying here. Well, the point that I'm trying to make is I don't think the church is, or not the church, I don't think Christianity, because the church and Christianity are two separate things, that's another thing. I don't think Christianity is homophobic at all. I think it's, and I don't think it's anti-sex either, because a lot of people say, oh, Christianity hates sex, it's really prudish, and it makes you frigid. No. So no, it's not. I just think it has ideals, and they're quite hard to live up to, these ideals. But to have them as ideals isn't a bad thing when it comes to family, keeping a family together. And that's all it's about. And it's not about hating on other people. Man is a fallen creature. I do believe that. And that's not to say that we have to go around going, oh, I'm a sinner, I'm unworthy, I'm such a horrible person. We do that anyway without religion. God, there's enough of self-flagellation from the media and from advertising, and you're not thin enough, oh, you're not round enough, oh, you haven't got a big enough butt now you have to have a huge butt. Or, it's God, it comes from Hollywood all the time, preaching at you for not having progressive values. That's a new religion. That's more condemning. And Christians accept everyone. They do. I don't know any Bible bashing Christians. Maybe it's more common in America, to be honest. And honestly, I mean, I've never been to the Bible Belt, so I haven't been beaten up by a Bible basher ever, so I don't know. And I know you've got the evangelists, but they are a cult. They're not what I call Christians anyway. So, the way, to me, all right, this is what I call a Christian. They don't have to go to church every Sunday, but strong family values are important, and so is marriage and the sanctity of marriage. And it is monogamous. And I don't know about honouring thy father and thy mother, because what happens if they're really narcissistic? So yeah, that's another one I failed with. But yeah, in an ideal world, yes. In fact, let's call it honour the father and the mother. That could be, gosh, I'm sure when Moses came up with that, or God came up with that and sent it down to Moses, he wasn't thinking of there would be such things as another sex, I think honour thy father and thy mother is really honour the genders, the mother, what a mother can do. A woman can give birth, a father protects. I think that's what that can be taken as meaning. Not that become a slave to your parents just because they brought you into the world, which, a lot of parents or a lot of Christian parents might take as a way to abuse their children. These are satanic possessed people. And I just want to go back to, as a contrast, my uncle, who was a great mum and dad to me. And he was someone I could honour father and mother in one person, very handy. But his lifestyle killed him. And maybe this is why, I am very angry with that lifestyle. He slept with 1,000 men and he died of AIDS. And it was horrible seeing him die. I mean, now maybe he probably wouldn't have done because of the advances in treatment for AIDS. But at that time, in 1991, he died. He was a bag of bones. and in a wheelchair. And he died at 38, and he was a very active, very, he travelled everywhere. I mean, he said, don't be upset for me. I had a brilliant life. I lived life to the full, and he travelled the world, and he had a good life, but he was taken away from me, and he was my mum and dad. So obviously I've got a bit of a gripe with the gay lifestyle, because it's what killed him. So right or wrong, that's the truth. This is me just being honest. And again, sorry if that offends someone. And so maybe you might know where I'm coming from when I get upset with the encouragement of very promiscuous lifestyles. If he had Christian values, he'd be alive today, wouldn't he? So, maybe that says it all, doesn't it, really? So femme fatale, that's what I named this, the fatal woman. So yeah, that's the bunny boiling. Oh look, there's a bunny in the illustration as well. So it's funny how all things kind of end, all things kind of relate. So have a godly full moon. Hold on to your smoky quartz and smoke out those demons. All right then, all the best. And see you on Darkstar if you want to read about Algol as well. Bye-bye.